And as part of the program again, we're always going to flash. We're going to throw Tetel's question to Celina this time. And just as a reminder, what Tetel asked was, how might we engage all members of society to participate in the COVID-19 public health response? So Celina, please feel free to answer Tetel's question.
Okay. So hi, good afternoon, everybody. First of all, and thank you to Hannah for inviting me today. So I hope I can answer Tato's question on how everybody can participate in public health through my presentation today. Because with I'm going to be talking about Gising Gising, a social entrepreneur, a social enterprise that we set up during COVID, and it was actually exactly that. It was a response to public health because the doctors are doing their jobs, but we also people also have the responsibility of taking care of their own health as well. So we can address that with good nutrition and exercise and everything. So yeah, I think I will be able to answer that challenge with my presentation. So before we begin with the presentation, I just want to give you guys a backstory of Gising Gising. So actually, my partners and I, the people who started Gising Gising, TJ and Tonyo, who are in this call right now, we met very early in January, and we wanted to create something, and we wanted to do an initiative that would address or promote good nutrition. So we had a million ideas. We wanted to, we had like so many ideas coming in on our first meeting. Na we wanted to do an online grocery. We wanted to do a health program for communities, low income communities, and we wanted to do diet delivery as well. There's so many ideas on the table, and we decided to, okay, let's let all of these ideas simmer, and let's go back to them after on our second meeting. But that second meeting never happened. We got distracted. We had our own jobs, and we had our own responsibilities at home, and then the lockdown happened in March. So when the lockdown happened, the closest one of the more there are so many issues that happened. We had to, we had to keep people at home. We had to take care of our frontliners. We had to stay at home ourselves as well, and it was a little bit overwhelming. But one of the more the issues that really resonated with us was that there's this kind of issue in the beginning when we started the lockdown, that people couldn't wait to go outside. And for us, it wasn't because their freedom was taken away. It wasn't because of that. It was because they had to work. A lot of the people in the Philippines actually earn on a daily wage. So when the lockdown happened so abruptly, their lives were super disrupted. And a community close to our heart, something TJ, one of my partners, he lives in Barangay Calawis, and Barangay Calawis is a remote community in Antipolo, and the area has 1,500 households, and 10% of which are from the Dumagat tribe. And a lot of the families there work outside outside Barangay Calawis, outside Antipolo. And when the lockdown happened, they couldn't go to work, so they lost their source of income, and they couldn't feed their families. So that was a very big problem. And with COVID, with the unpredictability of COVID, we didn't know when that was going to end. We didn't know when the lockdown was going to end. So um at that time, what TJ did was he put up a donation drive in Barangay Calawis, and it was called Puso Kitchen, and it was funded by donations, and it was funded by, like, people were donating, corporations were donating. It was a community kitchen, and it had the goal of feeding the people in Calawis. So, and then he, at the middle of all of it, he was thinking, this is not gonna last forever. We don't know when COVID is gonna end. We don't know if people still have jobs when they get back, if the lockdown lifts. They don't know when the lockdown will lift. So he reopened the idea we had in January, and said, na maybe we can pivot to something more sustainable. At that time, my mindset was what I was personally what I was feeling was I was feeling very helpless because of logistics reasons. I couldn't go to and volunteer at Puso Kitchen. I couldn't volunteer anywhere. I was stuck at home. There's very little. Well, AAH opened help from home, and that was very helpful. So we all knew how we could help from home, but I we kind of we there was like a temporary feeling to it, so we wanted to do something more continuous. So the lockdown had so many challenges. I'm sure I wasn't the only one who felt helpless. Everybody was feeling helpless. School stopped, hospitals were getting full. And another challenge we saw that farmers couldn't bring in their food inside Manila anymore because while it was allowed, it was very restricted. So, like I said, donation drives are great, but they're not forever. And as the weeks went by, we were feeling that this is going to last more than 1 month or more than 3 months. So, we had to think of something more sustainable. So, we got together again online, of course, like what we're doing now. And we started brainstorming, and we figured that the root cause of everything is access to food. The resources were there, but they were unable to reach Manila. They were unable to reach these communities. So the farmers had to dump a lot of their produce by the side of the road. So that was very painful for me personally because sayang all of the produce are there and they couldn't reach the people because of the restaurants were closing down, so they had no more customers as well. And another one was poor communities or low income communities had lost access to basic needs. They lost their livelihood and their ability to feed their families. And yeah, there were so many different problems. And the reason why these problems existed was because people lost access. There were so many barriers, like Tetel said. So, how could we kind of worm our way around that? So, how can we make all of these pieces work together? When the lockdown happened, we all know that everybody mobilized themselves so quickly. So we felt that generally there was an air of people wanting to help each other. There was that bayanihan spirit. It wasn't People were not being selfish. They wanted to reach out and help out in any way they can. Um, there were also we will also had to think of ways we can integrate that thought into the problem that we are trying to address. So yeah, this is our solution. So I just want, like, at this point I kind of just want to say that, like Tony said earlier, I used to be a graphic designer, but as my career progressed, I started to realize that design it's not 2D, it's not just visual. You can also design systems. You can also design ways of doing things differently with that mindset. So design is kind of, it's a mindset, it's a way of thinking. And we applied that when we were starting Gising Gising. So story time, when we started brainstorming again, there are three of us in the team. We had very different focus areas. So I was focused on the fact that farmers had produce, they had their harvests, but they couldn't reach Manila, and they lost their customer base. And that, for me, that was very, there's so much food waste coming in, and it was so frustrating for me to know that all of the food's there, but people are going hungry here. So there's a disconnect. TJ, on the other hand, had his focus area was to feed low income communities. He wanted to help them out because he's very close to them. He knows their stories, and he wanted to see how he could, extend help to those communities. Tonyo naman, he's a health buff. And during that time, he was all about boosting your immune system. And how can we tell people that this is what you have to do? You have to exercise, you have to eat right. While you're at home, this is the time to become more healthy. And he wanted to get that message across. So we wanted to tackle all of that in this model. So we we compromised and we made it work somehow. So this is the diagram that we made. This started as a sketch, and then we just used it as marketing materials eventually. So we sourced from the farmers who had a hard time moving their produce. We specifically, those farmers were our target. We had to look for them. TJ, unfortunately, he had contacted with them. And then we wanted to also, with the initiative, we also wanted to educate people on how to eat healthy, how to use your existing resources to boost your immune system, to be more fit, etc. So yeah, I was saying that another way we designed our operations was we wanted to be experts in each other's focus areas. So TJ is in charge of looking for farmers that we could source from. And I'm in charge of teaching everybody how to be healthy. So I'm in charge of the Instagram page and social media and creating content for the boxes, etc. So yeah, that's how when we were brainstorming, that's how we planned to execute this idea. So Gising Gising actually is rooted in sharing. Our tagline is share the goods, because we think that everybody has something to share. May it be like food or money or ideas or insights. Everybody has something to share, and we wanted to create that ecosystem for people. We wanted to create an avenue for people to share all of these ideas. And yeah, so the challenges, the constraints we had when we were starting, um, our initial idea was that we wanted to create a store, like a physical store for earlier in January. We wanted to create a physical store, but of course, we couldn't do that now with the conditions of the pandemic. So we had to pivot to digital, which was a little bit difficult, but thankfully people are adapting very quickly to that. So we leveraged on that idea that we were going to do everything digital, and also our meetings, our operations were all digital. Actually, we haven't seen each other since our very first meeting, and it's already October. But yeah, we've been operating Gising Gising remotely, so that was a challenge. Every aspect of our operations is digital. So we studied the behavior of people, of how they make decisions online, of how they make buying decisions, and we had to also um, see how we could connect with other organizations like us to grow the enterprise, social enterprise. So yeah, I guess like the pandemic was kind of a catalyst to our original idea. And going back to the sharing mindset also is that um, after a while, after a few weeks, we wanted to grow, we wanted to give to more communities, but we only had access to one. We only had access to Barangay Kalawis. So we thought about the way we tackle that was we would share our ecosystem with other organizations who were like us. So we also tapped into several organizations like Pag-asa. Pag-asa also has this exact same mindset that people will stay in their homes and people will flatten the curve if they don't go hungry, if they don't have to, if they're not trying to get out of their houses to work. So they also do donation drives. We worked with them, and we helped out the communities that they were helping. We also worked with Sagip, Community Life Center. Sagip it's sort of like a clinic. It's a group of doctors. They treat patients who are vulnerable, and these patients actually couldn't go to the hospitals. The patients that we donated to, they couldn't go to the hospitals because the hospitals were full. They were getting full of COVID. But these are the patients who kind of had to have regular checkups. They're seniors, and they had to have regular dialysis sessions, etc. So we helped them out with that. So we um, constructed shared boxes for them that were specific for them. We also worked with Fund the Forest to reach Sitio Yangil in Zambales. Sitio Yangil, they're a farming community who also lost their source of income. They couldn't distribute their produce because there were certain barriers going to Manila, so they couldn't sell their produce, and that was their main source of income. So we had to help them out as well. We partnered with Fund the Forest for that. We also helped Kids for Kids. We partnered with Kids for Kids. They partner with another organization who they do community kitchens in Muntinlupa for children, for high school students, because they're operating on the belief that if students are healthy and they're secure in terms of nutrition, they'll be able to study better. And we also worked with Save Our Schools network, and they helped us donate to LUMAD students in taking refuge in UP Diliman. And the students there, the LUMAD students there, they actually live off of donations because they were forced out of their land, and they live off of donations. But then the donations stopped coming when the lockdown hit. So we wanted to help them out as well. And continuously we're looking for more communities to tap and to share the goods with. So one of the I told Petra that I wanted to focus on this story, that it was so inspiring how whenever we share boxes, if our model is one box sold is one box shared. So for every box that we sell, we share another box to a family in need. So the boxes that we donate are dependent on how much we sell. So if we're able to sell, let's say 100 for a week, we donate 100 to a community. And if that community had a population of 300, one of the best stories that we've encountered during the lockdown, during this whole thing, was that they would share the boxes further with their neighbors so that everybody gets a piece. So, that was really good to hear. Like, that was really inspiring for us, that even if they had so little, they were sharing what they got from us as well, from our customers as well. Yeah. So as of October, we've shared over 2,000 boxes across the communities that I mentioned earlier. And we're looking to bump that up even more during Christmas, because obviously we're still on lockdown somehow. A lot of people already lost their jobs, and there are so many people who need help. And we want to grow that number. And it's been so great that, we didn't really expect to start in June and be here today. We didn't expect this amount of sharing from people, from strangers that we didn't know. And that's what our Gising Gising is actually powered by the people who share, by the people who want to contribute just by buying their box of vegetables. So yeah. What this experience really taught me was that with a sharing mindset, all of the issues in society, several issues, education, health, public health, everything, actually are interconnected. They can all be, they're all related somehow. And to jump to Tetel's point earlier, everybody can play a role in helping out. There are the pieces are there, bayanihan exists, resources are there, and people are there. There are people we can always help out. And if we put, with the design thinking mindset and sharing mindset, we can create systems that help them out. So yeah, that's my biggest takeaway. I think, like, moving forward as we continue Gising Gising, what it taught us, we started with one community, but as the weeks went by, we realized that there are so many people. This is for sure not happening in just one community. There are so many people that we can help, and so many aspects of society that we can tap as well. Not just food security, actually. There are so many other issues now we can tackle with this model, and that amount is a little bit daunting, but with the sharing mindset and the collaboration mindset, we feel that we will be able to address it with everybody. Yeah. So my question to everybody, my question to everyone is, how can we create that ecosystem? How can we make all of these pieces work together and improve the quality of life of our country? How can we how can we realize all of the pieces that need that we can tap, or the resources that we can tap, and how can we engage everybody to improve the quality of life for all of our citizens? So thank you everyone for listening. And if you have any questions, I will be watching the comment section.
Yay. Okay, thank you,
Thank you.
Celina. I think as a good key takeaway, the one that I was able to write down, I think that one of the greatest factors to Gising Gising's success was the whole network of collaborators who came together and the sharing mindset. I think that came out a lot in the chat box, and how the sharing mindset doesn't just apply to the boxes, but also how Gising Gising was able to work with various orgs, individuals, people of different talent. Another comment I saw from Jesse Rowasa was about how you're able to reduce the middlemen between farmers and the people who needed food. So I think that's super great. Thank you, Selena, for sharing with us.